Well, hey there, Mama, and welcome back to the Moms Overcoming Overwhelm podcast, episode number 125. I'm Emily McDermott, and I'm here beside you on this journey as we work together to declutter your home, head, and heart. One of the things that I have been hearing a lot in our free Facebook group, which if you haven't joined, it's again tinyurl.com/moms overcoming overwhelm, is about how people are struggling with their emotional attachment to items. And this might be their own stuff, it might be their kids' stuff, or things that perhaps belong to loved ones that have sentimental value. And it really begs the question, why are some people more emotionally attached to things than others? And also, is there anything that we can do about it to help loosen our attachment to things if we find that that is an issue? Well, today I am going to be talking about how one thing might be sabotaging your decluttering success, and it has to do with our attachment and our attachment styles. So you'll definitely want your notebook and pen for this. We're diving deep into the science. So what do you say? Grab that notebook and pen and let's dive into today's episode. Hey there, Mama. Are you tired of all the stuff crowding your home, calendar, and mind? Do you wish you could say goodbye to the endless to-do list running around in your head? Want to declutter but don't know where to start? You're in the right place. Welcome to Moms Overcoming Overwhelm, where you will find proven and practical solutions to declutter your home, head, and heart. Hi, I'm Emily, a wife, boy mom, and simplicity seeker. I struggled to get pregnant and felt overwhelmed until I discovered decluttering could create the physical and emotional space I needed to become a mom. Now, 2 kids later, I've transformed my life and motherhood by developing simple systems around decluttering, capsule wardrobes, kid stuff, cleaning and tidying, meal planning, time management, and more, and I can't wait to share them with you. If you're ready to reclaim the time and energy you crave, be present with your kids, and finally enjoy the life and motherhood you so deserve, let's kick overwhelm to the curb, shall we? Grab your lukewarm coffee, your notebook and pen, and clear up some counter space. Let's do this. Make sure you check out today's show notes with all of the research and everything you need to know having to do with today's episode. Also, I'm sharing my 5 mindset shifts you need to make in order to let go of clutter workbook. And not sure if you know this, but if you go to simplebyemmy.com/resources, I have several free resources to help you in your decluttering and simplifying journey. So I hope that you will check that out. So let's dive into these. Now, you may have heard of the idea of attachment style. So there are 4 attachment styles based upon the relationship that you experienced in your infancy and childhood with your primary caregiver, which impacts your emotional security and where that comes from. So there are 4 different types, and we're going to dive into those, talk a little bit about them, and then also how that impacts our relationship with our stuff. Okay, so our first is the secure attachment style. Now, the majority of people have secure attachment style. That means that your caregiver was reliably present and dependable in meeting your needs. That means that hopefully as an adult, you have confidence in your own self-worth, you have a healthy self-esteem, you can be in an intimate relationship. So the majority of people are in that secure attachment style. But then we have 3 additional attachment styles that are not in that secure camp. And the second one is the anxious, or what's known as the ambivalent attachment style. So if you perceive that your caregiver was inconsistent in meeting your needs, so sometimes they were engaged and responsive, sometimes they were unavailable, then that means that you might have that anxiety around relationships. So you might be clinging to people or monitoring people in your close circle to make sure they're going to be there for you. You might struggle to trust people fully, to be able to rely on your partner. You might need a lot of reassurance from your partner. And so anxious or ambivalent attachment style is based upon that inconsistency. And so that anxiety kind of follows us into adulthood. And the third attachment style is known as avoidant dismissive attachment style. So this is if your caregiver was unavailable or sort of rejecting during your infancy and childhood. And so since your needs were never regularly met by your caregiver, then you were forced to distance yourself emotionally. You had to self-soothe, and it required you to become independent. And what that means as an adult in relationships is that you might be wary of closeness. You might try to avoid emotional connection with others. The more that someone tries to get close to you, or the needier that someone is, the red flags go off, and then you tend to withdraw. So that is the third attachment type. And then the fourth attachment type, which was discovered a little bit later than the original research, is known as the fearful, also known as the disorganized or disoriented attachment style. So this stems from childhood trauma, neglect, abuse, any primary caregiver that was dealing with unresolved trauma, and it causes a lot of intense fear. So these people as adults, they find intimate relationships confusing and unsettling. They might be controlling in their relationships or dealing with some sort of abuse, whether that be substance abuse, verbal abuse, and so forth. And if you check out the show notes today, I do have a couple articles about the different attachment styles for you to check out. But the interesting thing is that the percentages around attachment styles has changed in that a 2014 study found that there are less Americans that have secure attachment style, going from 48% down to about 41%. And then the other attachment styles kind of all combined, so that anxious, and then also the fearful, and then the avoidant dismissive, it has increased to about 58%. And so the question is, first of all, why are insecure attachment styles on the rise? Probably a question for another episode. But what it means is that the behavior of seeking this emotional security and emotional solace from material objects is rising, probably because of these attachment styles and how things are shifting. So you might have a sense, just based upon these descriptions, what your attachment style was as far as in your childhood and also with relationships. But what is the connection between these four attachment styles and the attachment that we feel to our stuff? So I have a couple things, three things actually, for you to consider. The first is that we see our belongings as an extension of ourselves. And there is something called the endowment effect, which I've spoken about on the podcast before, which is that we give stuff that we own more value just because we own it. But there was a 2013 study that I'll link to in the show notes that found through functional magnetic resonance imaging in the brain that objects that a person thought were their own activated the same brain regions as references to that person's actual self. So again, we can see stuff as an extension of ourselves, and that will make it much easier to emotionally attach to stuff, especially if we have some of these insecure attachments in our background. The second thing is that people in our lives and relationships, they're not 100% reliable, right? They're human. People make mistakes. People let us down. They fail. But our stuff is reliable. It's under our control, and we can count on it for the most part to work and to function the way that it's intended. And so that allows us to more readily attach to stuff, especially if we've had insecure attachments with people, because our stuff is something that we can rely on rather than people. And the third consideration is that buying stuff makes us feel better. Consumerism gives us this dopamine high from purchasing. And there is one study in 2017, it was in the Journal of Consumer Psychology, which found that the things that we buy can offer what the researcher called a psychological salve to help us feel better about ourselves. And we can have tangible physical objects that can symbolically stand in for the comfort and the assuredness that we lack from people in the world, right? So if you feel that based upon these attachment types that you likely had one of the insecure attachments from your childhood, the first thing, of course, is to recognize that. You might want to talk to a therapist or a counselor to figure out how the insecure attachments have manifested when it comes to relationships that you've experienced in your life, but also to have that awareness when you are purchasing things and also when you are decluttering and noticing that you have this emotional attachment and figuring out, well, why do I have this emotional attachment? Is it because I'm feeling this sense of security from it? Am I feeling like this is something that I'm able to control, whereas I'm not able to control relationships? Just being able to figure out the reasoning behind it, maybe journal through that. And so that way you can hopefully more readily let go of things that are no longer serving you because you're recognizing that they are not a substitute for these secure attachments that we seek when it comes to intimate relationships in our lives. So I hope that that was helpful. Like I said, I have a couple of articles in the show notes today if you want to dig a little bit deeper. And I've also have a link in the show notes to my workbook, The 5 Mindset Shifts to Help You Let Go of Clutter, that can help you work through some of these questions as well. On Thursday, we'll be talking to Lisa Breven, and she is the owner of the Toy Nest, which is a toy library in Northern Virginia. And we're going to be talking about how she started the Toy Nest and also the benefits that children and parents experience from having less toys in their home. So I can't wait to see you there. See you on Thursday. Bye for now. If you like today's podcast, here's what you can do. Just take 30 seconds to leave me a review. I know you're a busy mama. You're overwhelmed, in fact, but 30 seconds of your day makes such an impact. I'll be blessed by your words. They'll definitely make my day. And who knows, you might be entered for this month's giveaway. In Apple Podcasts, scroll down to write a review. Thanks so much for your time. I'm so grateful for you.